So today, we're going to trace the timeline of one of the 20th century's most consequential figures. Now, we're not going to focus on psychology or ideology. Instead, we're just going to look at the sequence of decisions, the events that followed, and their ultimate, undeniable outcomes.
This opening point is absolutely crucial. It's important to get this from the start. This isn't just the story of one political mastermind. It's really the story of a system collapsing, a whole series of crises and mistakes that basically created an opening for him to rise.
So where does this all begin? Well, not in the halls of power, that's for sure. It starts in Austria. Adolf Hitler was an aspiring artist, and he was actually rejected twice by the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts. He lived in poverty for a while before moving to Munich and then volunteering for the German army when World War I broke out, where he ended up serving as a messenger. After Germany lost the war, the Treaty of Versailles laid out the terms of peace, and the conditions were incredibly harsh. We're talking about Germany losing territory, having its military restricted, and being forced to pay massive reparations. You have to understand, for so many Germans, this wasn't just some document. It was a deep national humiliation that fueled a lot of the resentment and turmoil that came next.
It was in this chaotic post-war world that Hitler's political career really began. He joined this tiny group called the German Workers' Party. It turns out he was a gifted speaker, and he rose through the ranks incredibly fast, soon becoming the leader of the party, which was then renamed the Nazi Party.
So the party's first big play, a direct attempt to overthrow the government in Munich by force. This whole event, the beer hall putsch, was a complete disaster. Hitler was arrested, thrown in prison, and it really looked like his political movement might be dead in the water before it even got started.
But here's the thing. Prison completely changed the game. It became a huge turning point. You can see the shift so clearly here. The old way, violent revolution, that had failed. The new strategy was way smarter and, frankly, way more dangerous. Use the tools of democracy to dismantle it from the inside.
And then the perfect storm started brewing. When the Great Depression slammed into Germany in 1929, it caused total economic chaos. Unemployment went through the roof, and people lost all faith in the government. And this is where the Nazi Party just thrived. They tapped into all that despair, promising to make Germany great again, and giving people very clear scapegoats for all their problems. Okay, so this brings us to a really critical period. Once he was in a position of power, the destruction of Germany's democratic system happened with stunning speed. These next 18 months, they would change absolutely everything. On January 30th, 1933, Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor. But what's crazy is, this wasn't because of some landslide election victory. It was a political deal. The established conservative leaders, they were more afraid of a communist takeover. And they thought, hey, we can use this guy's popular support, but we'll control him. It turned out to be a catastrophic miscalculation. Just look at how fast this all happened. First, the Reichstag fire gave them the perfect pretext to suspend civil rights. Then came the Enabling Act, which basically gave Hitler the power to make laws all by himself, no parliament needed. Soon after that, all other political parties were just banned. The final nail in the coffin came when President Hindenburg died. Hitler just merged the offices of President and Chancellor into one. And just like that, in less than 2 years, German democracy was gone.
So, with no one left to oppose him, the regime's focus totally shifts. It became all about locking down control at home and getting ready for aggressive expansion abroad. This was the real start of the totalitarian state.
And this is how they did it, right? You've got state-run media pumping out propaganda 24/7. You've got the secret police crushing any and all dissent. And then, in 1935, came the Nuremberg Laws, which officially stripped Jewish citizens of their rights, basically writing racial ideology directly into the country's legal code. This total control at home was the foundation for the aggression that was coming.
At the exact same time, Germany starts making these really aggressive moves on the world stage, just tearing up international treaties. The timeline shows this clear escalation, remilitarizing the Rhineland, annexing Austria, occupying Czechoslovakia. And with each step, the other European powers basically let it happen, practicing a policy of appeasement because they were so desperate to avoid another war.
Well, that desperation, that policy of appeasement, it didn't work. It failed. On September 1st, 1939, Germany invaded Poland, and Britain and France declared war. The conflict the world had been dreading was now a reality. From there, the war escalated with just mind-blowing speed. After Poland, much of Western Europe, including France, fell by 1940. Then in 1941, Hitler launched a massive invasion of the Soviet Union. And after Pearl Harbor, Germany declared war on the United States. In just over 2 years, this had gone from a European conflict to a full-blown global war.
And as the war raged on, the regime carried out its program of systematic mass murder. We're talking about approximately 6 million European Jews who were killed in the Holocaust. Millions of others, Roma, political opponents, homosexuals, and anyone the state deemed undesirable, were also murdered.
But back on the battlefield, the tide was beginning to turn. By 1943, you had these devastating losses for Germany, especially the surrender of an entire army at Stalingrad and major defeats in North Africa. This was the decisive shift. The German war machine, which once seemed unstoppable, was now on the defensive. So, this brings us to the final phase of the war. This period would see the regime's complete collapse and bring an unprecedented level of destruction all across the continent. The end came fast. In June of '44, you've got the Allied D-Day landings opening up the Western Front. A month after that, a plot to assassinate Hitler fails. By April 1945, with Soviet troops closing in on his bunker in Berlin, Hitler committed suicide. Just a few days later, Germany surrendered unconditionally.
And the consequences, the fallout from these years, is just staggering. World War II is still the deadliest conflict in human history. It led to tens of millions of deaths. It included the genocide of the Holocaust. It left cities all across Europe in absolute ruins. And it led to the division of Germany itself for nearly half a century.
And that really brings us full circle, doesn't it? We've traced this chain of events, of decisions and their outcomes. Because in the end, history doesn't really care about intent or ideology. What it records is consequence. The final, undeniable consequence.